I've been excited to make this video because obviously I'm a Nebraska fan, you're an Indiana fan, and we watch more Big Ten football than any other conference. So today I want to get your top 3 picks and I'll give you mine for win totals in the Big Ten. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. We had to save the best for last. Had to save the conference that really brought us together as friends. That first day we met each other playing pickup football, talking our love for Big Ten. So we were due to make this video.
And if you're new to BroThrow, make sure you hit the subscribe button now so you don't miss any of the content we drop this season, because Jake and I will be here giving you all of our predictions and game previews so that you can put your bets in on BroThrow and make money with us. With all that said, I want to start off with Ohio State under 10.5 at -105. And there's a reason that this is at 10.5 and not 11. Actually, there's 2 reasons. The first one is the schedule. Got to go on the road to Michigan, where Ohio State hasn't won in a couple of years, and a team who he's struggled with these past 2 seasons. The other reason is because the offense has some key pieces to replace. Most notably is CJ Stroud's gone. He went to the NFL, but they also lose 3 offensive linemen in the first 6 rounds. Here's the positive note. They return their top 2 receivers, who are also the top 2 receivers in the country, and the top 2 receivers to be taken in the draft next year. At least that's a projection, and I'm not arguing with it. Here's the thing. The last time this offense had to replace their starting quarterback was back in 2021. And you know how many wins they had in 2021? 10. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Michigan. And this year, there are a few teams who could potentially be that Oregon spoiler for them. Jim Knowles is back for year 2 on defense. They're going to improve since they've got 7 starters returning, but keep in mind, they gave up 40 plus in their final 2 games last year, and that's very concerning. Here's how the schedule plays out. You've got Penn State at home. That's going to be a battle because Penn State is only getting better, and Penn State actually took them down to the, final 5 or so minutes of the game before Ohio State went on a crazy run at the end there to win by 20. You also have an early season game on the road at Notre Dame. I can promise you that will be a struggle. You've got at Wisconsin after that Penn State game. That could be a letdown spot. And then, of course, at Michigan, which I'm already betting on them to lose that game. All they've got to do is lose to Michigan and then lose one of those 3 I mentioned. And this could be a total hit at -105. What are you thinking here, Jake?
Under on Ohio State is such a bold call. Their program is so strong. The recruiting has been so strong that even though they are losing CJ Stroud, they're bringing up another top flight quarterback, just like they did with Stroud, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins. They even let guys like Joe Burrow go in this time period. Their talent has always been there. They're bringing back all their running backs and receivers. I just don't buy that their offense is going to fall off a cliff and drop 2 games. I think their schedule is strong, but not strong enough that they can't win any of those games, including at Michigan. And I just think that they're ready to get back into the winning swing of things. I think Ryan Day's kind of figured it out with that Georgia loss. I know it's weird to say after a loss that they figured it out, but that was one of the most impressive performances by any team this year. And just because it happened in a loss, I'm not going to hold it against them. Georgia is that good, but Ohio State really proved to kind of turn things around. And I think they're going to have another strong season winning the Big Ten this year. So I don't know if I agree with the under here.
Replacing 5 starters, beating Michigan, and winning the Big Ten is a bold prediction. So, okay, fair enough. Let's move on to your pick. Iowa over 7.5 at -162.
Yeah, I'm really high on Iowa over 7.5 for this season. No losing seasons under Coach Kirk Ferentz since 2012. Last season, 7 wins, but that was with the number 2 defense in the entire country. 13.3 points per game allowed, almost 2 turnovers the defense was getting them per game. So why only 7 wins? Because their offense absolutely stunk. Spencer Petras could not do anything at the quarterback position, and as a result, teams could lock in, stack the box. The run game was doing nothing really much either. But Ferentz went out, got a key quarterback from the transfer portal, Cade McNamara from the University of Michigan, and now I think Iowa is primed to have a much stronger season because of McNamara. Their schedule is pretty simple. No Michigan, no Ohio State. Their non-conference schedule, very easy. They're going to go 3-0. So now we're allowed 4 losses the rest of the season. They could lose at Penn State, at Wisconsin, at Nebraska, and throw in one more dud loss in there somewhere, and they still go. ESPN projects their defense to be number 6 in the country this season. So I think their defense is going to keep them in every single game. I don't even know if I see 4 losses on the schedule, let alone more than that. So give me the over for Iowa. They're going to have a strong season this year.
Yeah, the defense will always keep Iowa alive. They always turn out NFL DBs, and they've always got some superstar defensive ends. So We'll see who it is this year, but I think I like the over with you, even though I don't like betting on Iowa since I don't like betting against them to beat Nebraska. My next pick is Michigan State under 5.5 at -144. They're such an interesting team because 2021 was so massive for Mel Tucker. It actually made him one of the highest paid coaches in college football. And then last season, they completely fell off a cliff. They missed a bowl game, and then there were some question marks going into the offseason. But they got even bigger when Peyton Thorne and Keon Coleman entered the portal and went to Florida State and Auburn, and then that left even bigger holes on this offense. Their offensive line and running back units are going to be improved since they returned Jalen Berger, who was their star last year, and then 2 other transfers from UConn and USF who've had 500-plus yard seasons. But the question marks at quarterback, where Noah Kim's going into his 3rd year, but has only started or played in 4 games so far, which makes him a complete unknown. Their top 2 receivers from last year are gone, so the 2 after that are back, but they only combined for 600 yards, so there's no proven star in the receiver room. Defense was a huge problem. They've ranked in the bottom 20 nationally the last 2 years, but because of the Michigan tunnel issue, the fight in the tunnel, if you remember that one, and then some other injuries, they ended up starting 27 different guys, and they just couldn't get consistent. The front 7 returns 5 starters, so they're going to improve against the run, you would hope. But the DBs are young, and only 2 have more than 3 starts under their belts, so I'm going to expect these guys to be suspect against the pass again. Their schedule's a little daunting. You've got 2 free wins against Central Michigan and Richmond, but you've got 4 losses against Penn State, Ohio State, Iowa, and Washington. The 6 toss-up games are going to be crucial. Michigan, Maryland, Nebraska at home, all teams who are equal or better than them talent-wise, and then Rutgers, Minnesota, and Indiana on the road. They have to win 2 of those games on the road, ideally all 3 of them, because who knows how many of those they can win at home. I love going against Michigan State because Mel Tucker just hasn't seemed to figure it out. It's like he had one lightning in the bottle year, and we've never seen him have an elite season at any other school he's been at as a head coach. I think he's only been at 2 schools as head coaches so far, but regardless, give me the under.
Yeah, Michigan State lost a lot of talent from last season, which wasn't even really that good of a season, as you said. We don't know what they're going to get from the quarterback position. We don't know what they're going to get from the wide receiver position. I'm going to go with the under here, too. Mel Tucker absolutely foisted his contract for Michigan State, and you got to think that after this season, they're going to be really regretting paying him $90 million plus.
You would think so. Well, speaking of the Michigans, you've got Michigan under 10.5 at -104.
Yeah, you're taking Ohio State under. I'm taking Michigan under. So we're kind of going against each other on those, as one of them is going to have to win that game, and whoever wins that game is probably going over 10.5. But Jim Harbaugh, even though they had an incredible last 2 seasons, making it to the college football playoff, winning the Big Ten, those are the only 2 seasons in Harbaugh's 7-year tenure at Michigan where they went over 10.5. I'm betting on regression in this case, that Michigan's going to get back to Harbaugh's kind of base level of play, 9 or 10 wins, instead of the last couple of years where he's been Big Ten champions. They've lost a lot of depth on the offensive side of the ball in the pass game. While they do keep J.J. McCarthy, their quarterback depth is a lot lesser than it was the last few seasons. If he goes down, they don't have Cade McNamara. They don't have Joe Milton. They don't even have Alan Bowman to take over. Instead, they have Jack Tuttle from my alma mater, Indiana, who was very, very disappointing when he had to take over last year. I think if McCarthy goes down, Michigan is going to struggle throwing the ball. Now, their run game is one of, if not the best in the country. And there's a chance that their run game can literally take them undefeated as it did last year. But they got 4 home games in the Big Ten versus 5 on the road. 3 of them on the road, Penn State, Michigan State, Nebraska, all dynamite crowds, all going to be itching to win. Last time Michigan played at Nebraska, as you all remember, Nebraska should have won that game a couple years ago. Harbaugh's still on an 0-6 streak in bowl games, 2-5 in his career against Ohio State, 3-4 versus Michigan State. I just don't want to let the last 2 years blind me from what I believe Harbaugh is, which is not one of the top coaches in the country. He's in that second echelon, going back to 9 or 10 wins. Give me Michigan under.
You make great points. I don't agree, but you make good points. Minnesota under 7.5 at -164. And I actually think Minnesota is going to be a better team this year than they were last year. But the problem is their schedule's brutal. They've got to play on the road at North Carolina week 3, and then they've got to play Ohio State and Michigan, which means they've got to play damn near perfect if they're going to get to 8 wins. Their offense is in for a huge makeover, and it starts at quarterback. Tanner Morgan's gone after being the starter for 5 years, but Ethan Kaliakmanis, I can't remember how to say his name. He's back, who started 5 games last year, and I actually think he's the better quarterback of the two. Their running back room lost Mo Ibrahim, but they did add Sean Tyler from Western Michigan, who ran for 1,000 yards back-to-back years. And then at receiver, they pulled in 2 new transfers from the portal from Charlotte and Western Michigan, and each of those guys went for, I think, 800 and 900 yards last year. On offensive line, they're losing their top 2 tackles and their starting center, but PJ Fleck has never had an issue developing guys in the O-line, so I'm not too worried about that unit. On defense, last year they ranked 4th in scoring D, and they only allowed 14 points a game, but they're losing their 3 starting DBs to the NFL in the transfer portal, and the pass rush was non-existent last season, so outside of a couple outside linebackers returning, I'm not sure they're going to get much better, so I'm expecting them to have a little bit of a drop-off since there are only 6 total starters returning on that side. You've got 1 free win against Eastern Michigan, 2 losses against Michigan and Ohio State, and then they've got some serious games against Nebraska, Michigan State, Illinois, Wisconsin at home, and some easier opponents like Purdue and Northwestern on the road, but add in Iowa and North Carolina, and I just don't see them getting to 8 wins.
Yeah, Minnesota, I do like PJ Fleck a lot as a coach, so that may be the only thing that may push me a little bit towards the over. But as you said, their schedule, absolutely brutal. New quarterback, a lot of new faces in the program. That's a tough task in the Big Ten.
Next, you've got Purdue under 5.5 minus 135.
Yeah, Purdue having a lot of changes. This, I think, is similar to my pick of Cincinnati from our Big 12 video. But Purdue, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, a lot of new pieces in place, and I just don't know how they're going to be able to respond. They have a negative net transfer class this season. They lost 23 players to the transfer portal and only brought 11 guys in. The main guy they brought in is Hudson Card, their new starting quarterback, to replace Aiden O'Connell. Card played at Texas last season. He started about 4 games in relief of Quinn Ewers when he was hurt, and he was okay to decent. He looked good at times, looked bad at times. Obviously, it got to the point where he was going to be the number 3 quarterback at Texas this year, so he got out, got over to Purdue, but he had better coaches and better talent around him at Texas and wasn't able to really impress. I don't know what he's going to be able to do at Purdue, a team that has now lost their number 1 receiver in Charlie Jones, lost their number 1 tight end. They're bringing in Graham Harrell as their new offensive coordinator, who runs an air raid type scheme. He was previously at USC under Clay Helton. They fired him when Lincoln Riley got there. He was over at West Virginia last year. Not a particularly impressive offense. They'll probably put up points, but I just don't see the team overall being where they need to be in this difficult Big Ten conference. They have to play Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin. Even their non-conference slate, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, are no locks at all. I could see them having a very rough season this year. They've lost a lot of talent. Their best player returning is running back Devin Mockabee, who's not going to really be utilized in this air raid scheme. So the talent doesn't really match the scheme. I'm just not a believer in Hudson Card being able to get 6 wins for Purdue.
Yeah, I think they're in a big rebuild spot, and I think the priority this year is going to be to rebuild the defense. Not sure what the offense is going to look like with Graham Harrell, but I'm not too high on Harrell either. He seemed like he was okay at USC for a minute, and then things just kind of fell off, and West Virginia was not impressive. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but I'm riding with you under Purdue. Well, Jake, thank you for your picks, and I'll see you in the next one.
Take care.